Hello, I'm Brendan Mitchell. Welcome to the Conversation series. Today I have with me Mr. Nick Chandley, a leading educationalist from England. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Brendan. Pleased to be here.
Oh, wonderful to have you. Now, whereabouts in England did you grow up?
I grew up in the north of England on a council estate in Rotherham, which is in South Yorkshire, which is a very industrial town. I grew up with my father as a steel worker and my mum any job that she could find just to bring some money in for the family.
Now in the north of England, is that up near Newcastle or Carlisle or?
No, it's further south than that. This is in South Yorkshire, near Sheffield, which is another big steel city.
Yes.
Which is why the local towns just outside Sheffield began to take on the industry of Sheffield, steel and coal. It was a very, very hard-working town and city.
And I guess the industry's changed there these days.
Very much so. Well, there's no coal mining now. This led to a really severe depression in the area. We lost the coal mining in the 1980s. The steel industry gradually wound down. So the whole area has had to diversify into more modern technologies, and that's just starting to see the impact now.
And the role of education in transforming or diversifying pretty much the whole of the UK economy over time, and this is a global trend. What's the role, how's education really provided for people as they've moved into other industries?
Well, I think one of the roles of education in my day was one to just bring people together. The curriculum was very free then, so teachers were free to teach what they wanted. They had no specific curricula from one school that had to be in the next school, that had to be in the next school. So we had teachers that could bring their own character to the lesson, into the classroom. I remember one of my teachers always brought his pet dog into the classroom. Another teacher, my geography teacher, used to sit at his desk and smoke a pipe.
Yes, I remember that too when I was younger in primary school.
Yeah, so it was very much my memories of my school days are ones very much of play and community.
But is this in primary school, and as you moved into the senior levels in high school and the like, was the curriculum a little bit more set, if you like?
It was more set, yes. But I had a tough time in secondary school because I went to a primary school where all my friends were, but then I was sent to a secondary school where I knew only 2 people. So I had a tough time for maybe 3 years in my secondary schooling. It was quite a lonely time for me. And I think that's when I first, on reflection, started to think about education and whether or not our education really catered for those students who were a bit left out.
Yes.
So I reflect back on that. It was tough times, but then towards the end of my education, in my secondary education, I had just a wonderful time. And I became involved with the prefects, which are students in the UK that help organise various things.
Would that be like a school captain type thing?
Kind of, yes.
Yep.
And then in my final year there, I became head boy of school, and I felt as though that kind of made up for the first 3 years of my secondary education, where I felt marginalised and took a long time to make friends. So all in all, I was happy.
Excellent. Now, when did music enter your life? Was it during your school years or after?
Yes, this was really interesting actually, because I first encountered music, playing music, when I was 9. when I was in a school in Sheffield, next door to my birth town. And the local authority decided to bring music into schools, and our school had been given 4 instruments. And the school, this was a primary school, had to pick 4 students to play these instruments. And the way they did that was to pick one class, and they said 4 students from that class can play one of these 4 instruments. A cornet, a euphonium, a tenor horn, and a trombone. And for some reason, and I've no idea why, I was given the cornet to play.
What is a cornet?
A cornet is a smaller version of a trumpet.
Ah, okay.
It's a very popular instrument in the area that I lived in and was brought up in, because the coal mines and lots of the industry had their own brass bands. And brass band is more than a type of music, it's a culture where people that worked down the mines in the day would go to band practice at night, and they would practice 4, 5, 6 times a week. And every now and then they would bring all these towns together in a competition. It was a culture. So all these instruments were from the brass band culture. And I was given a cornet. And I really believe to this day that that one momentary decision for somebody to give me a cornet has led to the life that I lead now.
Now, when you first entered the classroom as a graduate teacher in a primary school, were you musically inclined with your students?
Yes. When I got my first job as a teacher, I knew the head teacher of the school from the musical world. I used to play in the orchestra pit for musicals, and he used to act on stage. And we got talking, and he said, I've got a vacancy in my school, and I want my school to be a school of music. This was a primary school, but it was previously an infant school and a junior school, and they amalgamated, they joined together. And the school was going through lots of problems with trying to bring 2 schools together. And he said that edutainment was the way forward. It was a wonderful phrase, and he said music and drama will turn this school around. So I'd like you to come and teach at my school, but I'd also like you to be responsible for music and drama.
So you were a homeroom teacher, you had a set grade level, but also the additional responsibilities there.
I had a grade 5 class.
Yep.
And the additional responsibility of music throughout the school and drama throughout the school, and also the school productions. And we established a very firm ethos with our productions, and that was that, I guess we could say that we would rather be professional amateurs than amateur professionals. And that's the ethos that we established, and we got a wonderful reputation in school, to the extent that somebody gave us some money to build a theatre in the school.
Oh, lovely.
And from thence on, we could put on even more professional performances with very young children. And it worked. It brought the whole school together, and the school, even to this day, 20 years on, has got a wonderful reputation for music and drama.
And that's in the northeast?
In the northeast, in my birth town.
Oh, lovely.
In Rotherham, in South Yorkshire.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Now, from there, you went on to be a lead curriculum, didn't you?
I did. I moved away from school to live in the countryside, and I said to my head teacher, I need to find a school nearer to home. And he said, you can't. You need to stay here because we've still got a job to do. And I said, well, I won't see my children very much. And he said, leave it with me. I'll do my best. And he found me a job. They created a job for me working with what's termed in the UK an education action zone. And this was a job that gave me lots of freedom, and I was a curriculum development leader. So I was responsible for 9 schools, from a children's centre, which is 0 to 4 years old, 3 infant schools, some primary schools, and a secondary high school. And my job was to develop creative projects across all these schools that would engage the students, but also deliver some quite necessary outcomes. So he found me this job, which meant I didn't need to turn up for registration every day for my class. I had some more freedom, so I could see my children off to school in the morning and not worry that I was late for work. My ex-head teacher was a wonderful, wonderful man, inspirational, and again, I think like the choice of Cornet, I think there are key things that have made me what I am in education. His very early death was an incredible loss, not just to me but to education. A wonderful man, Mr. Alan Staton.
And then from there, that's led into you being able to move into training and professional development and teacher upskilling, yes?
Absolutely. My role at the Education Action Zone as curriculum development leader meant that, as well as engaging the students in creative activities, I also needed to train the teachers in making the most of those activities. So my teacher training started by leading staff meetings after school. So my boss would say, okay, go to teach this school how to use music in their curriculum. So I would lead a staff meeting, and I really enjoyed that. But then eventually we stumbled upon philosophy for children, and I was sent on a philosophy for children course, and I connected with that. This again is another pivotal moment.
And how long ago was that?
That was 15 years ago, maybe 16 years ago. And I was introduced to philosophy for children just like all the teachers are, but I really connected with it because I felt this was the kind of person that I am. I taught in a really tough school, and you had to get your children in the right emotional frame of mind before you could hope to teach them English or maths, because they may have had no breakfast, they may have had a fight on the way to school, they may have had arguments. So my classroom was one very much of dialogue and relationships. And I met philosophy for children, and within 10 minutes I knew that that was me. I never took my eye off my wonderful trainer, Barry Heimer. I never took my eye off him for 2 days. Had a great experience, and I took that back to my boss in the Education Action Zone and said, we need to do this. So I went on the various training courses, and as quickly as I could became a trainer for philosophy for children. And I trained all the schools in my Education Action Zone, but then I was taken on by the local authority to extend that training across all the schools in that local authority and wider. And that's where it set me on the path to be a philosophy for children trainer.
I've been very fortunate to have attended one of your courses, and I must say you're one of the most thoughtful and caring educators and trainers that I've ever seen. You do it with genuine emotion and genuine belief and care, and I know that the participants can see that and feel that it comes across, and that they can see that it makes a difference. And some of the examples that you have provided, and it's also provided you with the opportunity to take the message to the world, if you like, hasn't it?
That's really nice of you to say.
Oh, it's the truth. It's genuinely the truth, and I have seen a lot of people around the world.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Actually, I do believe in this. Quite a long time ago now, I had a wonderful job with the Education Action Zone. I worked with some great colleagues who are still my friends now, and we did some wonderful creative activities with children, students, teachers, the local community, parents. But there came a time when I was working with the Education Action Zone that I felt that the pressure from the local authority to have my whole teaching career based around progress in English and maths was becoming too heavy for me. I wanted to develop creative activities. I just didn't want to teach English and maths all day. Interestingly, the activities that we all provided for the children were precisely there to help them develop English and maths. So for example, a whole PE initiative that we had, physical education. We brought schools together from around the local authority and took them to a sports stadium, and they all took part in running races, jumping, long jump, high jump, throwing things, and they all got together in teams with children that they didn't know. We had a wonderful day or two at this stadium, but then when they went back to schools, to their high school they were moving to, the very first maths thing they did was to look at all the results from that sports day and play about with them mathematically and statistically. The children were really engaged in that. So, but I did feel that the local authority was putting undue pressure on us as a team to have as our only agenda English and maths. So I felt the time had come to leave. And I took the leap of faith. And I said, I'm going to leave education and I'm just going to spread the word of philosophy for children. And I could only do that if I really believed in it, because I had a family to bring up, I had responsibilities, but I got their backing for it. And I could only do that if I believed as much as I do in philosophy for children and all that that encompasses. So I'm really pleased that comes across, but it's very genuine. I am not sycophantic in my courses. I'm not one of these types of people that will say what the crowd wants to hear. I'm very honest, and I'm a kind of take me or leave me kind of person. So I'm pleased that that came across, Brendan.
Oh, it certainly does. And you make me more of a believer. I was a believer before, but you've made me more of a believer. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you very much for your time today. And I hope that I'm able to attend more of your training programs, and I definitely look forward to further engagement.
Brendan, you're welcome to anything I do.
We'd just like to thank Mr. Nick Chandley for his time today. If you'd like to find out more about Nick and his philosophy for children organisation, you can look them up at dialogueworks.co.uk, where Nick is a senior trainer there. I would highly recommend people looking at that and potentially engaging in this line of educational thought and also pedagogy.